series of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Phil Jackson, Dennis Rodman, and the 1990s Chicago Bulls, The Last Dance. Just 2 episodes in, people. I am already hooked. I know a lot of you out there are as well. But we have a new week, new edition of shows. It's time to get lost in Alabama Crimson Tide football. And what better way to do that than to spend time with yours truly, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, for In My Own Words, the podcast coming to you from Tuscaloosa. Show not just me, I got my man John Ivory in the production studio, bringing you the beats that bless your eardrum. So yours truly and my man John Ivory in the production studio. And as always, we want to encourage you to do this right now. If you are not subscribed to Touchdown Alabama Magazine on YouTube, go ahead, go to the channel, hit that subscribe button right now. And as you're hitting that subscribe button, be sure to click on the all notifications bell so that you don't miss any of the up-to-date content on your Crimson Tide. Now, if you're one of those fans out there who are already subscribed but still having trouble getting your notifications, hit the none button on the tab and then go back and hit the all notifications tab. So if you are not subscribed, be sure to subscribe. If you are subscribed but having issues, hit the none button on the subscription bell and then go back and hit the all notifications tab, just so that we can continue providing you and giving you the best of news, notes, information, and content on your favorite program. It's because of you that we are over 8,000 subscribers strong here on the YouTube channel. But we got a big show for today. We'll be joined by Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for TDA, to break down the 2021 class and Crimson Tide football program, starting to get some momentum here on this recruiting trail. But starting things off here with a couple of updates here. First and foremost, Tua Tagovailoa continuing to pick up the endorsement deals. On last week, he inked a deal with Muscle Milk and with Bose headphones, and now he has joined up with Henry Ruggs III in getting that deal with Adidas. So Tua, before he becomes the face of an NFL franchise, he is the face of 3 different brands. When it comes down to the Wonderlic test of Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa, folks, how about this? The wrong scores. The wrong information was leaked out on the scores from the Wonderlic test on both Jalen and Tua. The score that was mentioned on Friday of last week for Tagovailoa was a 13. He actually made that in 2018 while he took the exam at Alabama. According to Laura Rutledge of ESPN, he retook the test at the NFL Scouting Combine. Tua made a 19, which is one point off the overall average of 20, closer to the quarterback average of 24. So better 19 than 13 for Tua. In terms of Jalen Hurts, the score that was leaked out was 18. Hurts actually made a 21. So 1 point above the overall average of 20, in the neighborhood of the quarterback average of 24, but both scores, updated scores, better than what was originally reported. And Nick Saban had some huge comments of praise toward David Ballou and Dr. Matt Ray, calling them light years above the rest of the game in terms of conditioning, training, and getting guys to play at maximum peak performance. But we'll get to that in the latter portion here of this show. As we jump on down to the first topic here of conversation, there are 3 questions that Alabama Crimson Tide fans, they think about, that they want to know, they are inquisitive on during this time of the year. And those 3 questions just so happen to be, number 1, who will be the first player off the board in terms of the draft? Now, I think the first player that will come off the board will be Tua Tagovailoa to the Los Angeles Chargers with the 6th overall pick. The second question Tide Nation has is, how many Bama players will go in the first round? I've been fighting with the number 5 for a moment now, but in the last couple of weeks, a sixth player has hit my mind. Not going to tell you who the sixth player is off the bat, but there's a sixth player that has hit my mind, which makes us down to the third question, and it's who will be the steal of the draft for the Crimson Tide players? And that question is always tricky because there's so many variables that go into that, right? Who makes the pick? What round is it? What number is it? The organization the player could come to, the front office the player could go to. Is it the right fit? There are so many variables when you discuss who could be or who would be the steal of the draft. And recently here for Alabama, you can go back to Eddie Jackson when you discuss in the 2017 venue, he was a first-round value that went in the fourth round. He got hurt in the 2016 game against Texas A&M on a kickoff return, suffered a horrific leg injury, and the conversation for a lot of you out there in Bama Nation, if Jackson does not get hurt, Alabama beats Clemson for a second time in the college football playoff national title game, but that's besides the point. Jackson gets hurt, but thankfully, Jeff Allen, Alabama's head athletic trainer, Dr. James Andrews, and the rest of that staff were able to patch him up, stitch him up, get him healed up, and put him into the NFL draft where he went fourth round, pick 112 to the Chicago Bears, and boy, did the monsters of the Midwest luck out with that one because Eddie Jackson is the highest paid safety in the league and one of the best young defenders in the league. So while Jackson is the most recent one of steals in the draft in terms of Alabama players, who would be the steal of a draft for the Tide in this venue? And while I got a chance to listen to Mad Dog Sports Radio on last week, and they had Fran Tarkenton, Pro Football Hall of Famer, on, and he mentioned that Jalen Hurts would be the steal of a draft, and he gave his reasons. And while I would agree with what Tarkenton said, of whom ushered in the mobile, dual-threat, scrambling quarterback, henceforth the nickname Scrambling Fran, I'm going to give my opinion on who I think the steal of a draft is. Give me Terrell Lewis. Give me Terrell Lewis, the 6'5", 262-pound outside linebacker, edge rusher, the pride of Washington, D.C., former five-star in the 2016 class. And the reason why I say Terrell Lewis is already being doubted, right now. There was an individual on Twitter over the weekend, as you see the tweet come up on screen here. He mentioned that Terrell Lewis, he said, mark my words, Terrell Lewis will be a bust. And of course, Lewis clapped back with, you want to bet your salary on that? So Lewis already, with the determination and the mindset to prove people wrong. And while it is debatable for a lot of people to ask last season, were there moments where you thought Lewis may have saved himself for the NFL draft? Did he really and truly give his all every game throughout the season? Yes, that is debatable. Yes, that is up for discussion. Yes, you can make that thought. But when you watched him on the field in 2019, there were moments where he took over. There were moments where he single-handedly impacted football games. There were moments where he made the life of the opposing quarterback just an absolute living nightmare. There were moments where he wreaked havoc, and he was absolutely a dominating force. So you go back and you look at the 2019 season, Terrell Lewis, 31 tackles, 11 and a half tackles for loss, which was second behind Anthony Jennings, 6 sacks, second behind Anthony Jennings, a team high 16 quarterback hits, quarterback pressures. He also had a fumble recovery. Now, there were 3 games where he really, truly, completely flipped the script and just dominated. Now, he actually wore a towel on his belt this past season that had the term flip the script on there. But there was 3 games in the 2019 season, game 6 to game 8. So the middle of the year, he went off. And you look at Arkansas, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. Those 3 games combined here, Terrell Lewis, 13 of his 31 tackles came in those 3 games combined. He had 4 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, 8 quarterback hurries, just being an absolute nuisance getting into the backfield and harassing the opposing passer. And when I look at Tinu, just starting off with his strengths here in terms of the NFL, number one, you got to go with that size at 6'5", 262 pounds, built like the Terminator, built like Optimus Prime, built like Megatron out there trying to make his way or make his stamp on the defensive side of the football. So you got the size there. You got the quickness there. He's got tremendous quickness. His first step off the snap of the ball, it's explosive, it's intentional, it's efficient, it's effective, it's getting to the quarterback. How can I get to the quarterback? How can I affect the quarterback with my first step? So quick off the football, explosive off the football. He's got great footwork. Great feet in terms of shuffling the feet, getting his way around offensive linemen, being able to either go inside, go outside. So you've got the footwork there. He's got power hands. Very, very good hand strike. With the technique, shedding offensive linemen off of him, making his way into the backfield. He's got strong edge bending abilities. So the ability to bend off the edge, convert speed to power. So all of these are kind of his strengths. And once he makes contact to the quarterback, more times than not, or at most times, he does tend to finish the play. So those are just the strengths there. In terms of the weaknesses, he did have major injuries. 2017 and 2018 did not play much at all, did not play the entire 2018 season. 2017 season, got hurt in the season opener against Florida State, hurt his elbow, missed the majority of the year, did not come back until the Auburn game in the latter portion of the regular season. And despite the loss to Auburn, the Crimson Tide suffered there, did get a chance to play in the semifinal against Clemson, and then made his appearance in the national championship game against Georgia, having that huge sack of Jake Fromm in the title game. So he's had some injuries. There are moments where he's not the best coverage linebacker, and in the NFL, they're going to be asking for you to play tight ends, to play running backs, being flanked out, being flexed out wide. He's going to be asked to cover in different systems, which is the reason why he's got to fit into that right system to where they may not ask him or demand of him or require of him to cover on certain situations, on certain downs. He was never asked to be a coverage linebacker at Alabama. So coverage skills could use some work. He's got to be able to consistently finish plays. Going back to the matchup against LSU, there were moments where Lewis has Joe Burrow in his grasp. He has Joe Burrow for a sack. He has Joe Burrow for a tackle. He has Burrow in his sights to stop him from converting on a third down, and unfortunately just was not able to finish the play. So consistency on finishing plays. Got to get better with trusting his eyes. There are moments where Lewis tends to over-pursue a play. So he's got some strengths there, but he's got some weaknesses there that he has to work on. Now, according to NFL.com, he was given a grade of 6.29, which that grade means he will be a good backup with potential to become a starter. Good backup with potential to be a starter. The grade there for Terrell Lewis, once again, at 6.29. When he first came in to Alabama in 2016, people immediately saw how freakishly athletic he was, because if you go to the 2017 spring game, Tua Tagovailoa's freshman year, at 6'5", 252 pounds then, Lewis, he dropped back in the coverage, picked the ball off, and returned it 60 yards for a touchdown, and fans were going, huh? Hold on, wait. Did that just happen? He's that big, that physical, that monstrous, that type of size, that type of footwork, that type of mean streak, and he's able to drop back in coverage and get pick sixes too? Is this an android or is this a human? Who is this? So that type of playmaking ability already had Tide fans very much so intrigued. And prior to, and during, the injuries that he had, you only had sort of those fleeting images, of Lewis when it comes to the big plays he was able to make until 2019, to where he was actually able to play the majority of a full season. And when he wanted to, there were moments where you could turn on the tape, you watched him on the field, and he was just able to really physically dominate the opposition. So to me, I feel like the steal of a draft will be Terrell Lewis, just based on where does he go. Will he be a first rounder? Will he be an early second rounder? I have him as a late first rounder at number 28 overall to the Baltimore Ravens, but we shall see what happens. But me personally, I have him as my steal of the draft. But we're going to go to our first break here on In My Own Words, the podcast. Don't touch that dial. Just getting started on a Monday. Upon our return, we have your phone calls, your tweets, your thoughts, your text messages, your concerns after this.
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care, in support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwellsports.com and get your Title Towel today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month, or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
And we are back in from the break, rocking and rolling here. New week, fresh new energy on a Monday in My Own Words, the podcast with yours truly, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. And folks, as always, live in the YouTube chat line up. Drop your questions on the YouTube chat line. Get a conversation started. But it's your time, though. 205-448-1358, the number to call in to let your voice be heard on the show. 205-448-1358. You can text with that number, leave a voicemail with that number. You can tweet the show directly at In My Own Words TDA. That's at In My Own Words TDA. You can also tweet me directly at Coaching M. Smith on Twitter. But we go to our first caller on a Monday, and we pick up Waylon. What's going on, buddy?
Man, what's going on this Sunday, Monday down at TDA, Stephen?
Man, going well, man. Going well. Awesome show. People are already livening up the YouTube chat line, so you can't get better than that. But just talking some NFL draft. Who do you think could be the biggest steal, Waylon?
Well, you talked about Terrell. The physical being he is, the presence he would have on the defensive speed, the size, strength. I think he held off the accelerator a little bit at Alabama. I think he was gun shy. I think anybody probably would be after serious injuries to that effect. But he'll be one heck of a defensive player. I see. I don't see where you could beat him myself if he gets the potential.
To me, I would not have him as a linebacker in the NFL. I would have Terrell Lewis as a defensive end, have him put his hand in the dirt and rush the quarterback, because they tried to put him in some pass coverage situations at the Senior Bowl. He kind of struggled with that a great deal, and he was never asked to be a coverage linebacker at Alabama. So to me, wherever he goes in this draft, he's going to have to be a defensive end.
Yeah, that's where you put him. You take him away from linebacker, you put him on the edge of that line, let him cut loose like Derek Thomas used to and cause chaos in the backfield.
I would definitely have him as a defensive end. But Waylon, how many people you think Bama can get in this first round? I know that's a question that all the fans want to know, is how many Bama players can Saban put in this first round?
That's a good question, Stephen. I can't answer that question. We'll just have to sit back and and wait and see several. It's going to be the numbers are going to be up like they always are, and a lot of good. I mean, my goodness, the players that left Alabama, especially on the wide receiver side, it's going to go in the NFL in the first round. Quarterback, I mean, you got a lot of people there, Stephen. A lot of people going in the first round from Alabama.
It's a bunch of them, man, but I got a chance to kind of, I guess, I did watch the first 2 episodes of the Last Dance docuseries of Michael Jordan, and watching that, I developed a whole new appreciation for Mike because Mike had to handle a circus, man.
I'll put a comment on there. I know we got to get rolling here. There's some more people in the queue, but I will say this about that. I remember watching Bird and Magic and Kareem and all those guys go at it before Michael and them and Scottie Pippen and them came along. The talent that team had. Look at the point guard. Look at what he's doing now. Is a head basketball coach in the NBA with Steph Curry. I mean, come on, man. And I remember watching one time, Michael at North Carolina and then Spud Webb, 5'3" in North Carolina State. Man, he was like a Atari game. He had springs in his shoes. Man, he could just go up and dunk the ball. Those guys would at one another's throat, man. Being at those schools, it was unreal. I remember that stuff. It's so funny just thinking about it.
I mean, it was crazy, man. I'm excited for episodes 3 and 4 so that we can dive into the mind of one Dennis Rodman.
Exactly, Mr. Rodman. Yeah, he was a character, probably the best rebounder in NBA history. There's a lot of them before him, but probably the best. But we had Mr. Marquise Mays on the show there Friday, and I didn't get to do the little poem about him. I wish I could have. I should have had that written while he was on the show. But since we've been talking so long here, we'll move on down the road and end with a poem and 3 hearty chuckles there and hope a good Lord lets us come back on Wednesday. So here we go, TDA. Mission for Mr. Marquise Mays. Roses are red, the crimson makes people who play them blue. Mr. Marquise Mays was a 2-time champ. Was you? He streaked down the field and laid down the smoke. Greg tossed him the pass. He made DBs look like a joke. So thank you, Mr. Mays, for all you've done. You were a legend with 2 quarterbacks. 2 quarterbacks. You made watching college football so fun. All right, we appreciate y'all down at TDA and all the fans on the podcast. Keep coming in here. We'll see y'all Wednesday night, Stephen, the good Lord willing. Bye-bye.
Be good, Wayne. Appreciate having him on. We're going to take our next call here. You're live on a Monday. In my own words, the podcast. What's going on?
What's going on, Stephen? It's Justin Riley, your friend from the Sportscast. What's going on?
Oh, man, we got the legend in the building. Justin, what's going on?
Hey, man, glad to finally be on. I want to talk to you a little bit about who I feel like is going to be the steal of the draft.
Let me hear you.
Well, I got to echo what you say, man. I feel like it's going to be Terrell Lewis, for a couple reasons. One, you made the comment some folks didn't feel like he excelled the way that a lot of us hoped this past season, but I don't think that necessarily is all his fault. I feel like he was hindered because of what was going on defensively. We had Mosley out, we had McMillan out, had a lot of players out that normally would have been there, and we were playing with a defense that had to be adjusted according to what we had. So I feel like he was really limited in what he was really able to do and how we normally would have used him. So I don't feel like that should go against him. That's why, we only saw him produce in spurts instead of the full deal. So I feel like we kind of missed out based on that reasoning. And then, too, man, what I really like about him, he is so explosive coming out of his stance. And he's so strong. I like that he has the ability to jab a blocker and basically hold them at bay for as long as he wants, not as long as the blocker wants, as long as he wants. Then when he feels like it's time for him to close in, he'll just toss him aside and go do his thing. But, yeah, man, he's just so tough, and I think a lot of people are selling him short. I think the injuries are on the minds of a lot of people. But like you said, man, this guy's something special. And you said it right when I was thinking about it. He came right on the scene in that A-Day game and just showed out.
He absolutely did, and I remember that play, Justin. It was, Tua's freshman year. You had, I think he was trying to throw a slant or a screen or a dump pass, but he was trying to go in the flat, and all of a sudden I just see the 6'5" freak of nature. He jumps back in the play, jumps back into coverage, picks Tua off, takes it 60 yards to the house. Everybody's celebrating. Fans are throwing their beer everywhere. They're like, who is that? How did he do that? Like, it looked like Megatron playing football. I mean, that's what it looked like. And you wanted more from Terrell Lewis, and I understand, the massive injuries wiped out, him 2017 and, of course, 2018, with the exception of some fleeting images. But 2019, when he wanted to, that man could take a game over. I felt so bad for Arkansas's Nick Starkel because he got hit so many times by Terrell Lewis.
Oh, without question, man. He just completely just devastated Arkansas. Matter of fact, he's one of the key components that just broke Arkansas's will in that game. And, but I still feel like that he could have done a whole lot more. But because of the fact of how we were so limited in our defense this past season, we really weren't able to see the full product. But that being said, though, in the same token, he still was just so devastating. And he definitely showed the signs of the player that we all expected him to be. And I think once he gets to the NFL, that's when you're going to really see him mature and bloom into that superstar that we all expect.
Well, Justin, man, I appreciate the call, man. Keep listening to us.
Oh, absolutely, man. I appreciate you.
Justin Riley there, just giving us a little call there to talk about Terrell Lewis. We're going to actually take a question here in this chat line before we go to our next break here. And here's a good one. This one comes from Janelle. Winnell, this one comes from Winnell. Winnell writes in, best player this season. Who would be the best player this season? I'm going to go with best player this season. As much as I like Dylan Moses, and I think he'll be the most influential player, I think the best player this season will be Christian Harris. Christian Harris, to me, will be the best player this season. Watch his jump from last season to this upcoming year. Watch Christian Harris jump. That's my guy. But we're going to go to our next break here on the show. Continue to line us up in the YouTube chat line with your thoughts and your questions. Upon our return, we will be joined live via the phone lines with Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for TDA, to talk this 2021 class after this.
If you want delicious home-style cooking, sushi, and hibachi, check out Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. At home and you can't get away from the TV because the Crimson Tide is about to score? Don't worry, delivery is also available through Waitr and Crimson2go. That's Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And make sure you let them know the good folks at Touchdown Alabama sent you. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We are back into the hottest show on the streets, In My Own Words, the podcast with yours truly, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine on a Monday. And we go to the In My Own Words hotline right now, where we're joined by my brother from another mother, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for TDA, who is consistently hard at work, Justin Smith. Justin, man, what's going on?
Everything's going pretty good, Stephen.
That's good, man. Happy to have you on the line today. Well, Alabama, and you talked about it, Justin, when you were here in studio, a few shows back, to where at some point, Alabama was going to get was going to have some momentum build, create some momentum for this 2021 class. And last week, it started to do that, landing 2 huge commitments, verbal commitments. One of those from 3-star defensive lineman Anquan Barnes out of Lee High School in Montgomery. And then the very next day, which would have been Saturday, it brought in 4-star wide receiver Ajay Hall out of Florida. How big was this for the Crimson Tide to get back-to-back commitments and trying to get this momentum started up for 2021?
Well, I feel it was very big for Alabama to get those 2 guys, especially trying to establish some momentum now that going back to when they just had 1 commit with Deontay Lawson's commitment to 4-star linebacker from Mobile, Alabama. So I think it was huge for Alabama to build some momentum at this point. I felt like a couple of weeks ago that they had to do it. They had to just push some guys they really wanted to get those guys commitments, to get some momentum going for them on the recruiting trail. But as far as those guys go, picking up a commitment from an in-state kid like Anquan Barnes, a kid who Alabama offered on March 7th, and they kept in contact with them throughout that time. And he quickly rose to Alabama's recruiting board, a guy who stands at 6'5" and weighs 290 pounds, between 290 pounds and 300 pounds. So it was a huge pickup for Alabama to pick up Barnes, a gap filler. Not really the twitches or the quickest guy, but he's a guy who could really be a gap filler at the next level. I think the biggest get at the moment was Ajay Hall, the 5-star wide receiver. We have him listed actually as a 5-star on touchdownalabama.com at the moment. And I feel he's a 5-star because I think this kid is a special talent. He's a long, athletic kid. But I think the more impressive thing about Ajay Hall is the fact that his speed is underrated. I think he's a very speedy kid, a guy with a lot of speed, a kid who can really make up a lot of speed and make up a lot of space in the open field. And I think he's really hard to contain in the open field. So getting those guys was huge for Alabama as far as building some momentum on the recruiting trail, as well as getting 2 guys who can really be assets at that next level.
Now, Justin, you watch film on all of these young athletes. You watch film, you're at the games, you're scouting, you're on the road. You are literally the boots on the ground in terms of recruiting. Now, when you watch the tape of Hall and Barnes, what do these 2 give Alabama? What do they bring the Crimson Tide just from watching the film?
Well, Anquan Barnes, I think he's a kid that will possibly need to develop some more. Of course, he's going to his senior season, so he's going to take a couple of more steps during his senior season at Robert E. Lee High School in Montgomery, Alabama. But I think he needs to improve on his speed and also add some more hand moves and more quickness to his game to be a more competitive defensive lineman at the next level. But as far as Ajay Hall goes, I think he's one of those kids that could come in and make an immediate impact. He actually was going to play for IMG Academy for his senior season before he transferred to Bloomingdale High School. I think it would have been more beneficial for him to possibly play for IMG Academy so you could go against some of the top talent in the country. But he would play at Bloomingdale High School. But I still believe he possesses a unique skill set with this long frame and this ability to really make up space with that speed and that long stride that he has. But he's also very athletic, so he's one of those wide receivers that can make those acrobatic catches. So that's why I feel Alabama's getting in their last 2 commits, and Ajay Hall and Anquan Barnes.
Folks, if you're just tuning into In My Own Words, the podcast on a Monday, hottest show on the streets, we are joined via the hotline with Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for TDA, talking about this 2021 class. And Justin, who are the next marquee names, or who are the next names that down the line that Nick Saban and this coaching staff trying to attack and get? Who are the next names?
Well, the in-state kids that I've always talked about would definitely be on the table. Guys like 4-star linebacker Ian Jackson, 4-star defensive tackle Tim Kennan, the 5-star athlete JaQuincy McKinstry, 4-star linebacker Jeremiah Williams. All of those in-state guys would definitely still be on Alabama's board. But as far as moving forward, some names to know, a name I would definitely want Alabama fans to know is Amarius Mims, a 5-star offensive lineman who Alabama is recruiting in the 2021 recruiting class. This is a kid who I think Ajay Hall is going to really go after on the recruiting trail. He has a relationship with Amarius Mims. Both of those guys attended the Future 50 Media Day event in Florida. They also participated in the Under Armour Future 50 camp. So I think Ajay Hall will really help Alabama with Amarius Mims. Alabama has been building some momentum with him at the Under Armour Future 50 Media Day event. He did talk about Alabama being a huge player in his recruitment. He said he will announce his commitment on October 14th. He had the top 10, so I think Alabama will be in his recruitment throughout his recruitment at this point. So that's definitely a name to know. Another name I will keep an eye on is 3-star defensive end Darrell Peterson out of Akron, Ohio, by the way of Holban High School. Alabama actually pulled in a tight end from Holban High School and Caden Clark in the 2020 recruiting class, and I think they're going out there dealing Peterson pretty hard. He told me that Alabama's been in contact with them pretty much every other day throughout this recruiting dead period. Although he's rated as a 3-star recruit, this is a kid who had 21 tackles during his junior season, so he's not really a scrub, not really a kid that stands up to that 3-star rating. I think as his senior season comes up, I think he's going to make that jump and become a 4-star on most recruiting sites. So those are two names I'll definitely keep an eye on, and especially the guy in state that I mentioned.
Now, Justin, when I talk to people just around about in terms of, these young athletes, a name that always comes up is JaQuincy McKinstry's name. What makes him special? People look at him, of course, you have him as one of the best in-state players in this class, if not the best in-state player in this recruiting cycle. What stands out? What makes McKinstry as talented as he is?
I mean, he's just naturally athletic. When you see this kid, you just see an athletic guy because he just jumps out on film. He jumps out in the game. He's just one of those kids that have a natural ability to get the football in his hands. He knows how to judge the football from the offensive side of the ball. He's an aggressive guy on the defensive side of the ball. And his skill set actually translates to the basketball court. You see him on the basketball court. He's going down the court on fast break, making those acrobatic dunks. He's making those hard drives to the lane and scoring a basket in traffic. So he's a kid who's just naturally athletic. That's one of the things that really comes out to me. And as I said in the past, I feel that McKinstry is actually one of the best athletes the state of Alabama has ever produced. I think he's just such a talented kid, and I think it's something that really is going to translate to the next level. And this is something that a lot of schools are seeing, so they're trying to offer him in both sports, making sure that they're going to have him at the next level. So I feel JaQuincy McKinstry is definitely that talented.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in to In My Own Words, the podcast on a Monday, we're joined live by Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama magazine, just breaking down this 2021 recruiting class, recruiting cycle. Justin, aside from McKinstry, who else would you say is a must get? Alabama has to get this guy. If the Tide doesn't get this guy, it could lead to some negative repercussions. Who would be the must get guys?
Well, I think it's hard to find a must get guy for Alabama because they have so many targets on the board. I don't think any guy at the moment is a must get, but a guy who I feel Alabama would most likely would love to get on their 2021 recruiting class is Tim Kennan. He's a guy I will bring up. He's a 4-star defensive tackle out of Ramsey High School in Birmingham, Alabama. I think this kid is a unique talent. He has a similar frame to Alabama's newest commitment, Anquan Barnes. Not really taller than Anquan Barnes, but he weighs about 300 pounds. But he's the guy who possesses that. He's the guy who possesses that speed and that quickness that you want to see out of a defensive lineman in the game today. He also has a wide range of hand moves that is added to his wide range of moves he can do that's in his repertoire at the defensive line position. So I think Tim Kennan is a guy Alabama would really like to get in the 2021 recruiting class, especially with him being an in-state kid.
When you look at this Alabama coaching staff, Justin, full of big-time recruiters, when you discuss guys like Jeff Banks, guys like Freddie Roach, Charles Kelly, Carl Scott, among others. But just looking at Roach, Kelly, Jeff Banks, and also Pete Golding, who had the little strong emoji on Twitter today in terms of recruiting. When you talk to a lot of these athletes, how do they feel about the coaching staff, and their styles of recruiting? Who do they look at as the best recruiter possibly on the staff?
Well, I know for Pete Golding, he really has a huge impact on the Louisiana kids. I know a lot of those guys who I've talked to in the past, they always talked about Pete Golding being their guy with that Louisiana connection. So he has a huge connection to the state of Louisiana. Carl Scott is a name that comes up a lot because of his because of the way he recruits. A lot of recruits say he always tells them the truth, and as you guys can see, he has had a lot of success on the recruiting trail for Alabama. Jeff Banks is a name that comes up a lot, especially with them recruiting the state of Texas very hard. And a lot of recruits have talked about Jeff Banks having that same honesty level as Carl Scott, and Jeff Banks being the guy that they really can trust, and Jeff Banks being the guy that they really get to build a relationship with. So I think Jeff Banks, Carl Scott are among Alabama's best recruiters at the moment, based on Alabama's current coaching staff. But I think Freddie Roach is making his mark, leaving his mark on Alabama's recruiting efforts. A lot of recruits are starting to talk about him, especially defensive linemen, saying that he's the guy that they really like. So I think Freddie Roach is starting to make a move as well.
He's Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama Magazine, coming on here on a Monday to talk about the 2021 recruiting class as Alabama starting to create some momentum. Justin, be good out there. Be safe. We appreciate you for coming on to drop the knowledge, drop the nuggets of wisdom on what's going on in the recruiting cycle. We're going to have you back on soon, man. Be good.
You do the same, Steve.
Always awesome to have Justin Smith on just to talk about Alabama Crimson Tide recruiting. Give him a follow on Twitter. Also, follow his show on YouTube, The Process, which comes out every Tuesday and Thursday as he dives into the nuts and bolts of Crimson Tide recruiting. We're going to go to our next break here on In My Own Words, the podcast. Don't touch that dial when we return back to the phone lines and your tweets, thoughts, text messages, and concerns after this.
T-Town Menswear in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month, or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We are back into the action on In My Own Words, the podcast, the hottest show on the streets on a Monday. Yours truly, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. It's always good to get that recruiting news from the best scouting and recruiting analyst in the game, my man Justin Smith. But as we're back in here, as always, 205-448-1358, the number to call in to let your voice be heard, 205-448-1358. You can text with that number, leave a voicemail with that number. We appreciate you guys lighting us up in the chat line. But before we go to a couple of those thoughts right there, I want to build on my point on Christian Harris will be the team leader in tackles for loss in the upcoming season. And the reason why I feel that way is he's about to make a major jump between his freshman and his sophomore year at 6'2", 244 pounds out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And this was a guy that, without Dylan Moses and without Joshua McMillan, he had to do a lot. He had to make the calls on the field. He had to get affirmation on those calls, confirmation on those calls. He had to fly into the gap, make tackles for loss. He kind of had to do everything, learn and grow on the fly, so to speak, as a young player. Now with Dylan Moses back at that inside, that middle, that Mike linebacker position. Now with Dylan Moses back as the nucleus. Now with Dylan Moses back as the center of controls, this allows for Christian Harris to kind of get into his role of being that coverage, weak side, lateral quickness, sideline to sideline, blow that thing up linebacker. And this is what he was in high school. In Louisiana, he was a defensive back in high school. He had great instincts to play the lower third of the field, play the curl to flat, take on wide receivers, running backs, tight ends. He had just that type of a instinctive feel, for the game. And this past season, we're looking at 63 tackles. He was 7th among freshmen. He was 4th on the team. He had 7.5 tackles for loss, which was, 3rd on the team, but it was most among SEC freshmen. We're looking at 5 quarterback hurries. This was a guy that through 13 games, he was a freshman All-American from the USA Today and ESPN. He also made the freshman All-SEC team from the league's coaches. And along with his background as a defensive back, Christian Harris has tremendous initial speed, tremendous initial burst. He's got great lateral quickness. He's a very conscientious, very smart player. When Nick Saban talks about him, he always says Christian wants to do the right thing. He wants to make the right play. He wants to be at the right spot. He wants to be the one to make sure he's doing everything possible to help this team win. And he's got great burst. And he can be the Robin to Dylan Moses' Batman. He can be the Robin right now. And I look at Joshua McMillan. As much as I like McMillan, and I do, smart, instinctive, he's got 5 years in the system. He's going into his 6th year. He's got good size, can be a tackling machine. As much as I like Joshua McMillan, I would literally put him at outside backer. I would have him at outside backer to push the likes of Chris Allen, Jerez Parks, Ben Davis, King Wakuda. I would have McMillan outside because putting Christian Harris next to Dylan Moses, that's going to enhance Dylan, and that's going to enhance Christian. And kind of the reason why is, if you look at the national championships of the Saban era, 2011, 2012, 2015, and 2017, the middle linebacker and the weak side backer position, they play off each other very, very well. The Mike linebacker is always the brain. The weak side linebacker is the heat-seeking missile going, bruh, where do I need to go so I can light somebody up? But before I continue my point, we got a call in the queue. You're live on In My Own Words on a Monday. What's going on?
Hello, Stephen. This is Tom Ellis from Cincinnati. How are you?
Doing well, man, and yourself?
I'm doing outstanding, sir. I have a question about Jalen Hurts. I didn't hear you mention him earlier on in the show. I just wanted to get your thoughts on maybe things you've been hearing about him specifically, and where you may think he might go, like with round, and maybe the team that's probably the best fit. I've been kind of reading up on some draft stuff. Just would like to hear from someone who's been covering the team. And I know he didn't play for us last year, but would like to know a little bit more about Jalen Hurts. If you could provide me with your insight, I'd love to hear that. Jalen
Hurts did really well at the NFL Combine, and well to the point to a lot of people, a lot of scouts, including one, Daniel Jeremiah, former scout, now an analyst for NFL Network, talked on he doesn't see Jalen getting out of the second round. I see Jalen, while he could be a late first rounder, somebody could trade back late in the first round and get him. I would not be surprised, but I could see him going second round, pick 48 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just when you talk about Mike Tomlin, of whom is a great coach, one of the best in the league right now, players will run through a wall for Mike Tomlin. And then Ben Roethlisberger on the last leg of his career, he's probably got 1, maybe 2 really good years left. And when you saw how Lamar Jackson adjusted, Kyler Murray adjusted, guys like that, the dual threat mobile guys, how they adjusted so quickly to the game, Jalen Hurts kind of in that same skill set, or definitely in that same skill set. I would say this. Jalen Hurts to me, late first, early second round. I could see the Steelers in there. I could see the San Francisco 49ers making a play in there for him possibly. I can look at maybe maybe the Seattle Seahawks pull that card to put somebody behind Russell Wilson, somebody that Russell can work with, train, help develop. So I look at Pittsburgh, San Fran, Seattle, just three of those teams that sort of come to mind.
The Seattle or San Francisco, but I can definitely see the Pittsburgh Steelers possibly trading up to get him or select him in the second round. But I'm also curious to see if someone would actually trade up in the late first round, similar to how the Ravens picked Lamar Jackson. I know you mentioned him, and I believe that he's kind of showed the entire world that the dual threat is definitely a new thing in the NFL with the read option, and I believe Jalen does an excellent job with doing that. I think he still struggles with anticipation, but I think Lamar Jackson, he had a lot of critics that said that he wasn't maybe the best thrower of the football or as accurate, and he really proved a lot of the skeptics wrong. And I believe that Jalen, with the right system, the right quarterback coach, could probably do the same. He's not as fast or as athletic as Jackson, but I do believe with a lot of his intangibles that some team in the some team in the late first round could definitely trade up and get him.
I see the exact same thing, but it's going to be fun watching the draft on Thursday night. But, man, we appreciate the call. Keep listening to us. But we're going to actually go to our next break here on In My Own Words. Upon our return, we will get into Nick Saban's comments on David Ballou and Dr. Matt Ray after this.
If you're an avid Alabama Crimson Tide fan and you love to flaunt it, then show your Alabama Crimson Tide support by grabbing the All-Bama sneakers. They feature bold Crimson Tide graphics, so no one will be able to question where your allegiance lies. When you add these sweet sneakers to your Alabama Crimson Tide collection, go to STSfootwear.com and use the code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. That's code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. Go to STSfootwear.com and get your All-Bama sneakers today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
As we're back in on a Monday to the hottest show on the streets, the best form of Alabama football news, notes, and information, In My Own Words, we discussed the superstars, the two hires Nick Saban made prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, that being David Ballou and Dr. Matt Ray, coming from the Indiana Hoosiers, Indiana University, and ever since the hires were made for both guys, with Ballou being the director of sports performance, Dr. Ray being the director of performance science, Coach Saban has raved nothing but praise. He has showered, I should say, nothing but praise on these two individuals, in which they deserve it, because they have come in here to the University of Alabama. They have laid down some groundwork. They have brought in their philosophy, their training philosophy, their speed philosophy, their right sleep pattern, right eating pattern philosophy, and the players are bought in. Players are really enjoying and loving what's being done. Yes, it's different. It's not like what Scott Cochran had it the last 13 years prior to now, but they like the newness, they like the difference, they like the uniqueness, they like the challenge that Ballou and Matt Ray are putting on, each and every last one of those guys being the players. And while last week Alabama was supposed to have had its annual spring game, its A-Day game from Bryant-Denny, Coach Saban was on the Crimson Tide Sports Network out of Learfield, and the voice of the network is Eli Gold. And Gold spoke to Saban on, for the average run-of-the-mill fan, for the average Alabama fan that may not be that familiar with Ballou and Ray, talk to us about those two. What made you so adamant? What made you so sure, so confident, so comfortable that this was the right move to bring into the program? And Saban talked about how he had known Ballou and Ray for the last 4 to 5 years. He studied what they did at IMG and improving the speed training, improving the injury prevention. So he had studied those guys for the last 4 to 5 years. He saw what they did at Notre Dame. He saw what they did at Indiana. And he said those two guys were light years above everybody else, light years ahead of everybody else in the game when you discuss injury prevention, speed training, performance training, sleep patterns, making sure every athlete is at their tip-top shape, their tip-top physical condition. And Saban discussed how Alabama, much like other programs, was still stuck in the old way of doing things, just having the traditional, typical strength coach. And although he appreciated what Scott Cochran did, as much as we all appreciated what Cochran did, Saban was, for a while, looking at a different direction. He was wanting to take, a different turn. And he had interviewed other coaches that were just simply strength coaches. He had even requested the help of guys in the NFL to understand, why are we having all of these injuries? Why are we having all of these season-ending, mishaps? What is the problem here? And he came to grips with, maybe Alabama needs to have a new outlook on this and bring in individuals that are savvy with the technology, keen on the analytics, and look at things from a different perspective. So here is Ballou and Dr. Ray, and according to Saban, the players have had no issues, no problems, no negative circumstances. Guys have been fine with their academics. Guys have been fine with the Zoom meetings as the NCAA has relaxed the restrictions on that. At one point, you can have 2 hours of chalk talk and coaches meetings and player meetings, but now it's 8 hours. So you can really, run through some film, run through some training, run through some productivity to get you prepared to get on the field for a football season. Definitely crossing all fingers in hopes that we do have football in the coming fall. But, one of the things I like about Dr. Ray, just in particular, is he looks at the sleep of these players. His whole mindset is, if you get 8 hours of sleep, right? If you get 8 hours of sleep and you perform at the maximum effort all of your other drills, your weight drills, your speed drills, your workouts that we set out for you on the iPhone and on the Apple Watch, you get 8 hours of sleep and do your appropriate workouts, you're going to be at 100%. You're going to be able to have maximum effort versus if you get 7 hours of sleep but do all the drills, it drops 10%. And then 6 hours of sleep, it drops another 10%, and then so on and so forth. So his whole idea of you got to have the right amount of sleep, and then that right amount of sleep will transition into you having that peak performance. That's pretty interesting. That's a pretty big deal there when you discuss how all those analytics play out. So it's really fascinating how he goes into sleep sleep playing a big role in the way you perform on the field, the way you perform in the weight room, the way you perform in everything. So he takes that aspect. In terms of David Ballou, when he looks at the whole thing of peak power, of which we had Zach Osterman on the show a few weeks back talking about how he doesn't want these guys just squatting weights or just maxing out reps on the bench. He wants you to do it in fast time. How quickly can you do it? How fast can you do it? Because if you can't do it in the time allotted, then what good is it? We're trying to do it at a fast time so that, we can be the aggressor on the offensive line, or we can be the aggressor on the defensive line, or we can be the aggressor at any position of the choosing due to we're able to maximize it at pinpoint accuracy, at pinpoint precision, at a pinpoint time. And Saban also mentioned how both guys are highly observant in workouts. Like, they look at the workouts, they track the data, and from that data, they manipulate, do we need this? Do we not need this? If we need this, how much more action do we put on it? How much more force do we put on it? How much more time do we spend on it? If we need it and somebody's struggling with it, what can we give them? What exercise, what workout, what maneuver, what intervention can we have with this particular player to catch that player up to speed? Or if it's not really conducive to what we're trying to do as a football team, then Alabama does not have need of it. So very intriguing how these two individuals have come in here. They have laid a solid, firm impact of what we're going to do in the speed system, in the training system, in the injury prevention system, and making sure Alabama gets back to being a dominant team. So like Saban said, light years ahead of everybody else being Ballou and Dr. Ray. But you want the best in all things when you look at Alabama football. News, notes, and information is very simple, very easy to do. You download the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app. You can get this from the iPhone App Store if you're rocking Team Apple, Google Play Store if you just so happen to have the Android phone. The podcast options, if your audio listening pleasures just so happen to be iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Overcast.fm, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, or iHeartRadio, we have you covered. Just to be reminded, Crimson Tide fans, be sure to subscribe to Touchdown Alabama Magazine on YouTube. Be sure to go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button on Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Once you hit the subscribe button, you hit the all notifications bell so you can be up to date, getting all the insight from the shows we provide to you. So hit the all notifications bell. If you are one of those that have subscribed or is subscribed and you're still having trouble getting those notifications, then hit the none bell, let it rest for a few seconds, and then go back to hit the all notifications bell just to make sure that you are getting those. So we want to keep you updated on your Crimson Tide. If the good and gracious Lord sees fit, I will return on Wednesday, continuing the conversation that is Alabama football. We'll be joined by former Tide receiver Matt Caddell as we break down our mock draft. But leave you with my final three things here. Husbands, love your wives. Wives, value, appreciate your husband's children. Get that work done. Try ways to legitimately not be bored. Keep yourself entertained. Get those 3 hearty meals a day, those 3 great laughs a day. Protect yourself. Protect the loved ones around you. Until next time, folks, I'm your man, Stephen M. Smith, and this has been In My Own Words.